Alright, for today's industry insight, we got a very interesting topic. We're going to be discussing loot boxes, and we're going to be looking at why they are so popular, which I'm sure the thumbnail for this piece has probably attracted quite a few people. Because usually when we talk about loot boxes, the thumbnail will be the game industry is dying, the game industry is dead, the game industry is being murdered, loot boxes are killing the game industry, and I'm sure any other combination thereof. But regardless what everybody says, including yours truly, loot boxes are a popular part of microtransaction and monetization models from the mobile space all the way to AAA. And it's important to understand what makes them so popular and kind of when things go off the rails and we get into the obtrusive or harmful aspects of monetization. So, to begin with, let's very simply define what a loot box is. A loot box is a form of a microtransaction where the consumer will spend a fixed amount of money for an unknown or partially unknown reward. This can be something of lesser, greater, or equal value of what the person's putting out. But typically, what the person is buying is, of course, going to be digital content from the developer. Now, one of the first, common misconceptions or defenses a lot of people will use is that they will equate a loot box to the idea of a loot pinata. And that's a term that's typically used in an ARPG, wherein you'll kill an enemy or an unknown number of characters and all of a sudden something amazing will drop out. Now, the difference, or the key differentiator, is the fact that with a loot box, you are, or the consumer is spending money. There is no other way to acquire these goods, be it through in-game play or in-game rewards. If you want to use this specific item or specific loot box, you need to spend money. And this is one of the key things when we look at something like Team Fortress, which allows you to earn items through play. But if you get a Manco crate drop, the only way you're going to be using that is by spending $1.99. Now, the idea behind the loot box is pretty obvious. It's to get that same allure and attraction, very much so of a slot machine. You go into a casino, you pull that lever, and you don't know what you're going to get. Now, when we equate loot boxes to gambling and vice versa, there are several other connotations that pop up that we'll talk about in a minute. But to return to the whole loot pinata or earning in-game rewards, the biggest difference, and the one that kind of ends this part of the debate, is that the player is the active participant and they are earning something through play. Just imagine if Blizzard announced for Diablo 3 that you would play the game, a set item drops, you go to reveal it, and all of a sudden a pop-up comes up saying, you just got an amazing item. To unlock it, please give us $1.99 right now. I'm sure all the Diablo 3 fans would just love that addition. But when it comes to the reveal, the allure of loot boxes, a lot of it is that mystery box element. You don't know what you're going to get. And a lot of the best, or I guess we could say best, forms of loot boxes turn the opening into its own spectacle. If you remember from, I think it was Call of Duty World War II, when you reveal a loot box, it is literally dropped from the sky down, and everybody in close proximity can watch it. A lot of loot boxes will have like little animations that play, and the amount or the extravagance of the animation is dependent on the rarity that you're going to get. If you look at Hearthstone, for instance, when you open up a booster pack and you get that legendary, it doesn't just open up. It's an explosion of colors and amazement and all that. And again, it's all psychological tricks to give you the idea that, oh my god, I'm getting something amazing and I can't wait to use it or put on my character or announce it to my friends that I got it. But again, when it comes to loot boxes, an integral part of the design and the controversy surrounding them has to do with the value or weight of those items. Now, when we buy something in a store or make an actual purchase online, we are spending a fixed amount for a fixed item. If I'm spending $6.99 for a piece of DLC, then that DLC is worth $16.99 I'm going to get. But the point about loot boxes is that you don't know what you're going to get. You can have, as a developer, put on that box, you will get so and so, or this is what you, or spend an extra dollar, get a rare gift, or stuff like that. But the point is, the weight of what you can possibly get from that loot box for a lot of games is hidden, and even then, you can't really trust the loot box. And this is where we get to a lot of the controversies and the calls for regulations and gambling. Now, with that said, I don't know if there's going to be a written piece companion for this, but if it does go up and it's on Gamma Sutra, I can start to predict some of the defense or questions that are going to be asked below. And before we get to that, let's load up some game footage. And quite frankly, again, I don't have too many loot box related footages up on this channel, but we'll see if I get something that is somewhat relevant. This is footage loading up of Warhammer 40k Vermintide 2, a Left 4 Dead style co-op game. Now, the game is a full retail experience, and what they did was build their entire gear progression system around loot boxes. And you're going to see that right in, I think, the next 10 seconds from this footage. But this is an example of a game with a full retail design, but uses the loot box model as a form of its reward. And another game that did something similar was Lost Planet 2. And these two games are considered kind of the more ethical ways of having a loot box. And again, it's a great example of how that allure works. As you can see from this play, the loot box gets upgraded as you complete various tasks for the mission. So if you do all the bonus stuff, you will get a very powerful loot box. Now, as the footage plays out, you're going to see I'm going to probably open it up here, and I'll get my reward. And again, notice the spectacle that's designed around the loot box. The better the loot box, the higher quality the chest looks. That was more of a common one. I think maybe I'll open, oh no, that was the Emperor one. This is the common one that I'm opening up. Here are my rewards, of course, of varying tiers as well. Now, when it comes to the loot box progression model, again, this is where we get into the very dark or the controversial parts of the loot box design. When you are building your progression around random elements. Now, in this game, I cannot spend real money on loot boxes. All of it has to be earned through gameplay. And the better I do or the harder the challenge, the higher the quality of the stuff. And in this case, a lot of people are fine with the loot box model, despite the fact that it is built into the progression. Again, I can't just pick a high quality weapon and get that as a reward. I need to hopefully get that when I roll the loot box. Now, the original Vermintide used the same or a similar model, and a lot of people, including myself, didn't like it because you had, or the loot boxes themselves were not weighted towards the character you played with. In this one, playing as my friend Victor Saltzpierre, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't butcher that too much. In the first game, getting a loot box, I would get rewards for other characters, which unfortunately doesn't help me if I'm just playing as him. And this is a major part of the problem, or what a lot of people don't like about loot boxes in mobile and free-to-play games. In a traditional game, there is a fixed number of rewards, or a fixed number of things that I can get that makes things better for me. But if I'm getting stuff that I'm not using, I'm inherently throwing my money out. And you'll find with any loot box style system that the more you play, the less value the loot boxes have. To give you a case in point, let's say I'm playing a game that has a total of 300 heroes or weapons or equipment or anything of value. What that means is that the more loot boxes I open, the less chance I'm going to get something that I need or want. And that creates that issue as you get further and further in. Of course, when you open your first loot box, or when the game basically forces you to do that at the beginning, you're going to get something of value because you have nothing. But the more you play, the less value you're going to have. Now, here's one of the bigger defense points that a lot of people have when we talk about loot boxes. And that's the fact that no matter what, the player is still getting something. So it can't be considered gambling. But, as we've talked about before, it still is, because the person is spending money for something of unknown value. Of course, when you go to a casino and you play a slot machine, they'll say that everybody's a winner. But how many of those people are actually hitting that jackpot? And like we've said, the value of these goods is completely dependent on the developer themselves. They are the ones who are making this price. So you can have a super powerful item and have that chance be maybe like a 2% or even less than a percent drop chance in your game. But you are still promoting it as the same amount of weight as, let's say, something that has a 80% chance to drop. Now, again, when it comes to loot boxes, in a game like Vermintide 2 or Lost Planet 2, it's considered more or less fair, because you are earning the chance to get these items. And even with that said, there's no item in this game or in these titles that's going to be absolutely groundbreakingly awesome. In a lot of free-to-play and mobile designs, there are items and characters and drops that are legitimately better than everything else. And of course, those items are weighted to be less, or having a less chance of dropping compared to your common items. And this is when it becomes very troublesome for progression built on this design. Because going back to what I said earlier, let's say we only have 300 possible drops in the game. But once you hit the high level, let's say only 15 of those drops are legitimately going to help you to move forward. Anything else that you pick up has no value to you as a player. So I can keep spending money, but I'm not getting anything in return. Now, many games will allow you to mill lesser items, but again, the cost is just too much. It will be like saying that I need to get $50 worth of lesser items to get the one item that I need. And that is, again, where the loot box design goes off the rails, by the fact that it is an endless money sink. Because of how developers can keep scaling and adding new items, you're never going to reach a point in a mobile or free-to-play game where you can say, I don't need to buy any more loot boxes anymore. I have everything that I need. These games are designed around that endless scale. And as we've talked about before, especially in a recent piece about the power of numbers, the beauty about scaling is that you can keep doing it indefinitely. As long as there are numbers you can raise up, you can keep adding new items to loot boxes, or many developers will add new loot boxes in. For instance, in Payday 2, which ran into a lot of controversy with the inclusion of safes that you had to spend $1.99 to open, what they did, besides allowing people to open them in-game, which was that was a major change after a lot of backlash, was they introduced different safes that have different quantities and qualities of items. So there's a Dallas safe, a Hoxton safe, a crime spree safe. That was not easy to get out, and so on and so forth. And again, loot boxes at their basic level are good elements. They reward the player with a random reward, they become their own event, and they can give you that nice little shot in the arm as to a motivator to keep playing. You got this amazing item, now use it, or maybe you'll get something else better next time. But when you are building your entire progression model around it, and more importantly, you are scaling against the player with that model, is when we see this dark side of loot boxes. And again, make no mistake, loot boxes, when the player is forced to spend money to open them, is an example of gambling. It may not be as prevalent or as in your face as when you go to a casino, but it's still there. And I know what people are going to say down below. What about when you open up booster packs for games like Hearthstone or Pokemon or Magic the Gathering? And yes, that is still a minor form of gambling. The player or the consumer is spending money on an unknown amount of content or unknown value of goods, and that's about it. Again, you can open up a booster pack in Hearthstone and get some super amazing legendary card, or you open up and you get 6 common cards that you already have. And even though you can build those up to maybe get that legendary card, the amount of money that you're going to have to spend is going to be immense. And that is one of those big issues. How much money should someone spend? And I really need to ask Ramin about this, maybe when we have him on again, about should there be an endpoint? And I'm going to throw that question to you folks who are watching this right now or seeing this as a companion piece somewhere. When we're talking about loot boxes, should there be a literal endpoint as to how many times someone can open them? And again, the simplest way to do that would be no longer having duplicates. So if there are 300 items in your game and you open up a loot box and get 3, that means that each consumer only has to spend enough money to open up 100 loot boxes to have it all. Now I know of course developers probably don't like that, but would that be an alternative? And can you think of any other games that have done a good job of presenting an ethical form of a loot box? Let me know in the comments below, but thanks for watching today's Industry Insight. Hopefully the thumbnail didn't get too, clickbaity, but we'll see. But check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, have a good night. Before we get to the credits, just a quick shout out to the supporters over on patreon.com/GWBycer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check back for our regular streaming, most nights at 9:30, 10 EST, and you'll find a schedule linked down below. For a collection of my writings as well as audio casts on design, you'll find that at game-wisdom.com. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at GWBycer. If you're interested in hanging out and talking about game design topics, we have a Discord channel with the basic tier open to everybody, and that is linked down below as well. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, it is at patreon.com/GWBycer. Your support can help to keep things going and growing, and you can earn rewards such as ad-free versions of our talks, votings for our specific Let's Plays and grab bag streams, and more. But that's it for now. Thanks again for watching. I hope you come back for more great discussions on design here and on GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games.